Hello everyone, welcome back to a very special video. I'm DTM as always, and we have the newest legendary hero, Legendary Myrrh, which was not exactly a surprise. She was definitely predicted by a lot of different people, but she's super unique and I'm super excited to analyze her, discuss her best builds, and answer the question of whether or not you should summon. But before we get into that, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that jazz to help support the channel. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers. It only takes 5 seconds to subscribe, but it truly does help support this channel a lot, and I would really appreciate all the constant support. And yeah, let us begin with Legendary Myrrh. So Legendary Myrrh is a dragon flying, a blue dragon flying, and she is a wind legendary that gives defense and pair up. She comes with the preference weapons Godly Breath, which grants her slaying, all stats -5 if she either initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, and just a straight up 30% damage reduction. And an auto double, which is quite a lot. This is very similar to what Spring Myrrh had, although Spring Myrrh had 40% damage reduction as opposed to Legendary Myrrh having 30%, but Legendary Myrrh also has the auto double as well, so honestly I prefer Godly Breath over what Spring Myrrh had, because 10% is not that big of a difference, and honestly, her preference weapon is not what makes her unique. What makes her unique is her preference C, Darkling Guardian, which, at the start of turn, if unit is within 2 spaces of an ally, grants Def Res +6, denies the foe's follow-up attack, and grants Warp Bubble, which is basically like Gatekeeper's anti-warping effect. So this effect basically, shuts things down like Ash, Sonya, Katria, Wings of Mercy even. And yeah, let's go over Legendary Myrrh one by one. In addition to the 30% damage reduction in her weapon, she also comes with Dragon Wall, which is 40%. This in total gives 58% total damage reduction, assuming Dragon Wall does have the max damage reduction. Again, damage reduction stacks multiplicatively, not additively, so that is a lot of damage reduction, obviously. Although, as before, things like Deadeye, Lethality, or Legendary Nana, and I think Flavia, they have effects that can get through that, so that's just something to be worried about. And again, as I mentioned, Warp Bubble is like Gatekeeper. The difference is that since Warp Bubble is a positive status, in order to get the Warp Bubble effect, she needs to be within 2 spaces of an ally at the start of turn. This isn't too hard, to be perfectly honest. It just means that she can't exactly be far away from the rest of the team. The trade-off is, though, that Legendary Myrrh is actually a competent unit. Like, Gatekeeper sure provides like the attack defense support and could possibly provide Kanto's control support as well, but like honestly it's not really that worth it. Like, Myrrh is just so much better and it's actually so much more useful. The problems with Myrrh though is that she doesn't have Io's shield, which I was very surprised about not being in her preference weapon. That makes it really harder to be able to be run as, say, like an Omni tank, because Valentine's Chroms with pre-charged Deadeyes are literally everywhere in Arena. So yeah, you do definitely need to be careful about that, and you probably want to run like a far save unit so she could just focus on the melees. Again, I think the only melees that actually get through damage reduction is like Legendary Nana and Flavia, I believe. But like Flavia is pretty rare, and Legendary Nana, Myrrh does have color advantage over, so honestly it's not too big of a deal. And also, she doesn't really have her own way of special acceleration. And as a flying, she can't exactly run Steady Breath. Although, Fallen Ninian, also a blue dragon, can definitely provide that special acceleration. So I guess that's just something to keep in mind. As for how she'll do in Arena, what makes her unique is Warp Bubble. And unfortunately, I think Warp Bubble will have very limited utility in Arena. Warping in general is pretty rare. Like, you don't generally see Ashe or Sonya or Bridal Catria, which I would say are like the 3 main sources of warping in the meta right now, in terms of like just the overall competitive modes. The really only thing that Warp Bubble would prevent is Wings of Mercy Dancers, which you'll probably only see on Dual Peony or Legendary Azura. This will be very helpful against those, but again, I don't think it's the most useful utility in the world compared to, say, Legendary Sigurd or even Future Vision from Legendary Lucina. However, she is a flyer, and with that, she can bring in a lot of good mobility options and can run like mobility skills like Guidance to help the team get in and be able to take out units. Mobility is very important in Arena. However, she does have melee range, and that limited range can be hindering. You can't really force like rally loops like you can with the ranged infantry or just like a cavalry unit, for example. So honestly, I don't really think Legendary Myrrh was designed for Arena, to be perfectly honest. I think she was designed with Summoner's Duels in mind. Warp Bubble just seems to me like a completely SD-focused skill, because it denies a lot of the common mobility options that are present in Summoner's Duels, like Ashe, Sonya, and Catria, like I mentioned before. And because she can be supported in a Farsafe, which is a very common configuration in Summoner's Duels, especially in rotations without Erosion, she doesn't have to worry about units with Deadeye or Lethality, like Chrom or Yuri. You can just have your Farsafe unit take care of that, and you also don't have to run Io's Shield either, because again, bows are countered by the Farsafe, and she can make a very effective frontline option that can also deny a lot of these warping effects. She is super hard to take out because of the 58% damage reduction she has, and she also provides that, again, support. She does have Dragon weakness though, which is something to keep in mind, although I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think the only common Dragon effective unit is Brave Alm and Harmonized Roy. Harmonized Roy can definitely give her a lot of trouble, so she'll hopefully be able to rely on her damage reduction that way, depending on the build. But yeah, as I mentioned, she will definitely be a super powerful frontline option for Summoner's Duels, and definitely more effective in that role compared to other units, in my personal opinion. I like frontline units that provide utility, which is why I really like Not a lot, because she provides Pathfinder. Here, Myrrh does provide that anti-warping effect, which is really powerful. As for her builds, you can go very basic and very budget. Like, just keep her base kit and slap in like Defres Form 3, and you're basically good to go. Like, she doesn't need much more than that to be effective in her role, especially in something like Summoner's Duels. And even as a one-off, she can function very well and just tank so many things. Obviously, every merge helps because as a tank, merges scale really well. But even as a one-off or as a +1, she can get the job done. Obviously, though, if you want to have a bit more investment into her, she can function in Arena as well. There are 2 options I think you can take her as. One is an Omni Tank, where you just swap out her A for Distant Stance and then run Io's Shield. She still scores max with this skill set, so you don't have to worry about losing score thanks to Io's Shield. And yeah, obviously Io's Shield negates the flying weakness, so things like Dual Chrom won't have effective damage against her. Distant Stance obviously boosts that res for the Dragon Wall, damage reduction, and Blue Flame is unfortunately the only low cooldown special that is available to dragons, I believe. Yeah, it is really unfortunate dragons can't run Ruptured Sky and can't like have the Steady Breath seal, but unfortunately IS decides that dragons has to be that way. The other option is definitely to make her more supportive, which is why I have Guidance in the seal to provide that mobility support. Bracing Stance 3 is also an option in Arena, since penalties aren't exactly as common in Arena as opposed to something, say, like Summoner's Duels, where you encounter a lot of menaces. Obviously, though, Bracing Stance Unit 3 is completely optional. You definitely don't need to run that. Defres Unity works fine as is, but I'm just showing it here to demonstrate that it is an option for those that are like diehard Myrrh fans and like inherit every skill to her. Myrrh is a wind legendary, so obviously comparisons to other wind legendaries, specifically in the context of Arena, is something that I will be talking about here. For this tier list, this is primarily based off of how I think they perform in Arena and how good of an investment they are for Arena specifically. Obviously though, these units have amazing capabilities outside of Arena, but I'll get into that as I talk about them. Obviously, the king of win season is Legendary Sigurd. I don't think anyone would dispute that. He is still so good, and so I think the closest we've had to a quote-unquote broken unit. Like no other unit still can give range calves +1 movement, and obviously in Arena, where mobility is king, that is very good. Even in something like Summoner's Duels, that's really good. So yeah, like, I don't think anyone would dispute this. He still scores max, and yeah, definitely deserve S tier. After that, we have Byleth and Micaiah. I personally think these two are interchangeable. To be perfectly honest, I personally prefer Byleth thanks to the mobility that she has, and the potential support with the tempo effect, although I don't think tempo effect is as useful as, say, a male Byleth, which has the no follow-up support, but still, it is something, and I do think that the mobility does make her stand out a bit more than Micaiah, although again, Micaiah is like no slouch either. She has dual effectiveness, she does come with joint distant guard in her base kit, and does have desperation, so she is obviously a huge nuke. And again, as I mentioned, those two are pretty interchangeable. It just comes down to personal preference for me. It is worth knowing though that Micaiah does score 1 bin higher, so if all you care about is scoring, then obviously Micaiah is the better option. Now, this might be a bit of a hot take, but I think Legendary Lucina is actually super good as a wind legendary in Arena. Future Vision is just so good in Arena. Like, there's a reason why like Legendary Chrom is still, in my personal opinion, the best water legendary in the game. It's just because that To Change Fate gives that repositional skill, which is so good in Arena, provides so much support and mobility, and Lucina does that the same way with Future Vision, especially with her Refine now giving her the Plesioan effect. The thing that holds her back, though, is her scoring. She scores 175, as opposed to, say, Sigurd, who is 190, so that's 3 bins lower. So that does hurt her quite a bit, especially these days where Arena scoring is honestly quite crazy. But I genuinely do believe that if Legendary Lucina scored as well as even Byleth, I think she would be the second best wind legendary in the game by far, and be S tier behind Legendary Sigurd. Like, that's how much I think her combat capability and support capability is so good in Arena. And obviously after that we have Myrrh, who's still an A. Again, I mentioned her before, I don't think Myrrh is really designed with Arena in mind, which is pretty funny considering that she is a legendary hero, which is supposed to be used in Arena, but she can still be very good in Arena regardless. Again, Warp Bubble, though have limited uses, can still deny Wings of Mercy Dancers, and she will definitely be an effective tank regardless, so yeah, still A. And honestly, the people in A tier are very close to each other in terms of like their overall evaluation for Arena. In B, we have Legendary Eliwood and Legendary Gunthra. Again, I personally think these two are pretty interchangeable. Gunthra is a range cav, which is very good in Arena for forcing rally loops, and of course, just being such a good nuke. Legendary Eliwood has a very unique effect that I don't think any other unit has in FEH, with that bonus doubler, which is obviously seen a lot of use in Summoner's Duels for raid boss strategies, but even in Arena can still perform very well in ensuring that your, I guess, Omni tank in Arena can survive a lot better. And then next in B, we do have Corrin. Now, Corrin, unfortunately, I think has fallen off quite a bit. Honestly, being a tank in Arena that's not up to modern standards is a bit tough. But still, she's still a pretty good tank, all things considering. And she'll still function pretty well in an Arena. I just think all the other units, honestly, are quite a bit better. And then in C tier, unfortunately, we have Hrid and Lyn. Hrid, yeah, there's not much to say about Hrid, to be perfectly honest. It's super hard to compete compared to Legendary Sigurd, and I don't think Hrid really offers anything special. Now, Lyn is very interesting because if Lyn was evaluated based on anything outside of Arena, I think she would actually be very good. But unfortunately, her preference skill is in the A slot, meaning that you have to sacrifice that preference A skill for our G Dual Infantry 4 in order to actually score somewhat decently, which is super unfortunate and honestly really limits her combat potential. It's really unfortunate that IS did that, to be perfectly honest. There's no reason why her preference A remix couldn't have G Dual Infantry 4 in it, but yeah, unfortunately, because of that, Lyn is very hampered in Arena, since you do have to run G Dual Infantry 4. So yeah, on whether or not you should summon on this banner, I think there are basically two colors that might be worth considering. Blue has 2 wind legendaries and 1 water legendary. So if you are just brand new and starting out and are looking to get into Arena, blue is a decent option. It's not the most efficient because there is overlap between the 2 winds, and in general, for most players, having 2 legendaries per season is not really feasible. So it would have been better if, say, there was like 1 wind, 1 water, and 1 fire, for example. But unfortunately, that isn't the case here. But it's still pretty decent share. There is 2 out of 3 options, whichever you want to go for. And if you are going to go for blue, you definitely should only go in if you have, say, like 1,500 orbs, give or take. The other option I think is green, and that is if you need a water and fire arena core along with more light merges, because in green we have a water legendary, a fire legendary, and a light mythic. Again, this is good to start for arena if you haven't had one in water or fire season, and can definitely get light merges on the way, so it's definitely more efficient compared to blue. The downside, of course, is that green doesn't have the most modern legendary units with like Legendary Edelgard, for example, although I still personally think Legendary Edelgard is a very good unit. However, it's not as good as, say, I think Legendary Lilina or Eitri, for example. And as mentioned before, you should really only go into this if you have like around 1,500 orbs, give or take. Otherwise, the other colors aren't really that interesting, especially red. Red is so bad. Please don't go in red. And yeah, if you aren't looking to get into arena, specifically wind water or water fire along with light, then I would recommend skipping this banner. So yeah, overall, I think Myrrh is definitely a very strong unit, especially in Summoner's Duels. And it's really interesting that IS seems to be pivoting towards designing these legendary heroes with Summoner's Duels in mind, because, as I mentioned before, Warp Bubble is very much a Summoner's Duels focused skill, which is really interesting. But still, Legendary Myrrh is a really great unit, although nothing as strong as, say, Legendary Sigurd or even any of the modern high-scoring ranged wind legendaries we currently have. She'll still perform very effectively though. And yeah, hopefully y'all enjoyed this analysis. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that jazz to help support the channel. Once again, we're so close to 1,000 subscribers. It would be super amazing if we can reach that this month. Only takes 5 seconds to subscribe, but it truly does help support this channel, and I really do appreciate all the constant support. Let me know whether or not you have summoned on this banner, or you're planning to summon on this banner. And yeah, see you all next time.